Hello, this is Dr. Beverly Wright, and welcome to Tag Data Talk. With us today, we have Eric Friedman, Assistant Vice President, and with Unum, and he's talking to us about leveraging data science for actionable insights. Welcome, Eric.
Thanks for having me.
And I'm not sure I got your title correct. Can you remind me what it is?
Yeah, so Assistant Vice President of...
Fancy title, that's all I know. It's real long and fancy.
Yeah, very fancy. Expense modeling and analytics.
Expense modeling and analytics with Unum.
That's right.
Okay, which is a holding company or something for...
So it's the parent company of Colonial Life, which is just another... so Colonial Life and Unum both make up Unum Group.
Okay, great. And you're headquartered in Columbia, South Carolina.
Yes.
Near University of South Carolina.
Correct.
Wonderful. Well, our topic today is about leveraging data science for actionable insights. And we're sort of emphasizing, really we want to say for very actionable or for truly actionable insights, right?
Yes.
So let's first start off with, when we talk about actionable insights, we're thinking of data science and analytics. And so what do we mean by that? Are we talking about AI projects only? Are we talking about dashboards? Or somewhere in between BI and AI?
Yeah, so for me, I'm focused a little bit on kind of in between or on both. So that cross section of BI and AI.
Okay, so a little bit of BI and some predictive, probably, and mostly project-based type of work.
Yep.
Okay, so when we're talking about actionable insights, this has to do with there's a specific business problem that we're trying to solve, and we have this data, and let's go try to figure it out.
Lots of business problems, but yes.
Okay, and typically project by project based.
Yes, I think that's most for the most part the way that that it typically goes. Yeah.
Okay, so can you give us an example of some types, without any trade secrets, of course,
yeah.
but any type of business question that would be common in your line of work?
So I'm in finance in the transformation office, and so it's maybe not the prototypical data science spot, but we answer questions like how many people do we need in operations or in different parts of the business. What's driving our customer experience. Do we what if we increase the number of people we have? Can we increase the customer experience? What if we need to save money? What's that going to do to our turnaround times or our productivity?
Oh, okay.
So that's the main focus that we've got, but we've also got a lot of other questions as well, like looking at when people leave the company, what's the cost of that turnover, that employee turnover? Because it takes a while to bring a new person in and train them up and make that investment. So so if it's compensation driven, like we would want to look at, should we increase compensation? It's not only good for the employee, it's good for us too. So those are a few examples.
Well, that's all over the place. So,
yes.
Things related to customer experience, even HR related, like turnover, and what are some ways that we can prevent or reduce turnover, different types of consumers, what kind of impact will happen if we do some kind of action. So driver studies, segmentation studies, impact studies, those kinds of things.
Yeah, anything expense related, that's a decision, that's us.
Okay, gotcha. I was wondering why so broad, but anything expense related. Okay, well that covers a lot of areas. So we're talking about real, truly actionable insights. Why are we emphasizing that? What gives? Why would it not be really actionable to begin with? What are some of the barriers?
So I think for me, like we spend a lot of time analyzing data, getting to conclusions. Sometimes those conclusions are relevant and actionable. Other times it's put on a shelf. It's not used. It's not the right time. It's not quite the right information to help make a decision. So what I'm trying to do is cut down on time that we spend that doesn't result in an actionable insight and focus our time on the things that truly add value.
Okay, so we're analyzing data, but sometimes you mentioned that we're not even answering the right question.
I think yes, that's the case. Sometimes it also, we may answer the right question, but then there's a series of questions after that we could have just kind of gone straight to the heart of what a business leader is looking for.
Gotcha. How does this happen? How does this happen where we and I mean it happens a lot, so I'm not criticizing, but how does it happen where so many data science teams, they'll start working on a problem and analyzing data, and they think they know the business problem, and they end up answering something else? What do you think's going on?
I think sometimes it's a lack of time or understanding from a business leader on either they don't have the time to sit down and think about, what they're truly after, or the subsequent impacts or implications of the initial question that they asked. Or it could be, the data science team, not having a full, complete understanding of the business operation or the area that's asking the question. And it's not their fault; they just don't have those same experiences.
Okay, so two main root causes as to why we're answering the wrong questions that ultimately lead to not really having actionable insights. One being that they being both the data scientist maybe and the business unit leader. Is that what you're saying?
I think sometimes, yeah, it could be both. I think like from the business leader perspective, they've got a lot to do. They've got a lot on their plate. They may ask a question, not understand how long it takes to answer that question, or not, have time to fully think through, well, am I really, asking, well, I have, 3 or 4 follow-up questions after that. Maybe I could have just asked the question at the end where the data science team could really, follow that all the way through rather than having kind of an iterative multiple questions and answers session.
Well, and sometimes they don't know the questions to ask until they get further along and they start talking about it. But it seems like one root cause you're mentioning is they're not taking the time and sort of trying to skip over, really drilling into the business question.
Yeah, I want to emphasize that it's not that they don't want to take the time.
Right.
Often they don't have the time,
Right.
or it's just if on both ends, the business leader or the data science team, they may not, have that full understanding of what each other's asking.
Okay, and then the second root cause, which I really appreciate this one, is you talked about a lack of empathy. The data science teams not really truly understanding the world of the analytic consumer or the person requesting the analytic solution. So talk us through that. What does that mean?
So I would say maybe empathy may not be the exact correct phrasing, but like just the true understanding of that business environment or that business operation. And so, where I think it would be helpful for, a data science team that's trying to answer a business question is to not just go after the pure data itself, but also spend some time trying to understand the business that they are trying to support. Talk to people, try to get just a little bit of a glimpse of what goes on in their life, and then I think they'll have a more complete understanding of the business area and be able to better answer the question.
Gotcha. I was doing an analysis when I was in banking, and the leader of the call center wanted us to do some work for him. And I was like, okay, this is cool. Can I sit in? Can I watch? Can I be involved? And he was really surprised that I asked that question because he said nobody had ever asked that before. But by watching the calls and seeing exactly how they do their work and exactly how the calls are routed, I felt like I was able to produce a better data science project.
Yeah, that's exactly what I'm talking about.
Okay.
I've spent some time leading the claims organization, and so when we get questions from them, I feel like I'm better able to answer those types of questions than if I were to get questions from billing or underwriting, or so I think it's partially based on personal experience, but I've also heard that from others as well, that it's helpful to have that business insider exposure when you're trying to attack a question from a data science perspective.
Yeah. Okay. And you talked about not the right business questions. That was the first one. But you've also talked about sometimes it's not the right time. What does that mean? It's not the right time to try to answer that question, meaning that the organization's not ready, or that. Walk us through that a little bit.
Yeah. Timing is really important. Based on either the time it takes to get to the answer. It may be that by the time you answer the question, it's too late. Things have changed, and so are we better better spending our time looking at other things? So I think it's not just when you get a business question or somebody's trying to get an answer about something, don't just take it at face value. Be willing to kind of explore that further, and that business leader may not understand that the time it takes for a data scientist or an analytics team to actually get to that answer. So prioritization is very important. Understanding the timing of when you deliver an answer is critical.
Yeah, I was going to ask you about prioritization. If we're hitting these projects at the wrong time, and the organization is not ready to receive them, how does prioritization happen? This is what I've heard from other people. I'm sure that Unum is perfect in every way.
Yeah.
But other professionals have told me that sometimes it's just who's asking that gets the higher priority. So what do you recommend for how to organize the business questions and prioritize them?
Yeah, great question. There's not a silver bullet. I mean, I do think sometimes it matters who's asking the question. In certain cases, they may have, understanding of, across, broadly across multiple business units of, some common theme that we really need to get after. So it is important to consider that, but it's not always the case. I would say we constantly prioritize. So the business and the world is, continues to evolve and change. And so, we may have a set prioritization one week, the next week that may change. And, I encourage my team to be open-minded to that, be flexible, constantly kind of dialogue and collaborate with not only, with each other and me, but also with the business. So we're answering, we're not spending our time is very valuable, not spending our time answering a question that may have been asked, but has changed, and that question is less, in priority than something else.
Gotcha. So far we have that, are we good? Sorry, Luther. Okay. So far, it sounds like the ways or the reasons that we're not really truly providing actual insights can include, we're not looking at the right business question, or we stray from it. We're not looking at the right timing. Maybe it's rapidly changing environment. We're not prioritizing correctly. What are some of the other blockers or barriers or reasons that explain why we're not really providing actionable insights?
So one of the big things for me is being able to turn. So say we do all those other things correctly. Mm-hmm. It's the right time. It's the high priority item that we're trying to answer. We're going about it the right way. We've gotten some business understanding, framing, and kind of summarizing the maybe if it's a really in-depth data science or data analysis, the business leader may not have the time or the knowledge of data science or complex analytics to really understand a more academic kind of explanation about why we're answering the question the way that we are. So proper framing of the results or the conclusion is really important. Concise, clear, and confident portrayal of the answer, I think is critical, because if they don't have the time to sit there and go through 80, 100 slide presentation about all of the really complex nuts and bolts about how we got to the answer, then they may not trust the final result. So
Gotcha.
So that's I think one of the biggest things in my mind.
Okay, communicating the story in a way that is truly, or can be truly impactful to
Yep.
the consumer of the analytic.
Exactly.
Okay, so how do we fix all this? I mean, can you think of an example where you had an analytic that was produced that was really successful and applied, and it just, gosh, it helped the business so much? How do we fix this?
So I think in some cases experience. Also, I think just kind of each organization is different. So I think getting a feel for the customer, in this case, the business leader or somebody that's posing the question, understanding that customer and the way that they like to understand and digest information is really important. It's getting experience in another field, or having somebody co-create or come alongside you. If there's an analytics team that's primarily data scientists or other technical folks, have some check-ins or some key milestones along the way where you can ensure that you're kind of tracking in the right direction. And then testing, to the last point we talked about around messaging and communicating the results. I would say testing that communication plan either individually or with key stakeholders before kind of going into a final presentation would be really helpful as well.
Gotcha. Okay, this is great advice. So the understanding the analytics consumer, and even if you can, walk a mile in their shoes,
Mm-hmm.
or try to have an understanding of a day in the life of, so to speak.
Yeah, that's right.
And so if you're dealing with HR, maybe spend some time doing their kind of work, or understanding how they do their kind of work. Second is understanding the actual environment of what you're trying to answer, not just the people that are going to be consuming it, but the actual environment. that you're under. So again, going back to HR and understanding attrition, what are some of the trends of attrition, and doing some research and finding out more about that subject and some of the terms. Thirdly, and this is great, work collaboratively.
Yeah.
And you especially mentioned multidisciplinary. We way too often, especially in the academic world, we way too often sort of stay a little insular, our little pocket of people that we're comfortable with. But don't be afraid to work collaboratively, especially with, bring them alongside, the business people, the analytic consumer. They're going to be ultimately digesting what you give. And then last thing you mentioned was something about data, but I missed it. What was it?
I don't recall. We covered a lot of ground there.
Yeah, it was a lot of, the data storytelling, yes.
Yeah, the storytelling part is critical. So
Yeah.
I think maybe it was testing the story out beforehand
That's right. Yeah,
with key
testing.
stakeholders. Yeah, that part is really critical, because if you go into a big room of business leaders or stakeholders, you haven't tested the messaging out, there's going to be a lot of questions. There may be different types of questions depending on what viewpoint each of those stakeholders are bringing, and so testing it out, not with everyone, but key people that you will be able to provide candid feedback, help in additional refinement of the messaging. That part is really important.
Okay, great. Well, we heard a lot about how, what kind of business problems we're talking about solving, and what kind of analytics and data science we're doing.
Yeah.
And we also talked about why are results not actionable, why are they not truly actionable to date, some of the big boulders and barriers that we need to move, how to move them. And so my last question for you is, with all this, what final piece of advice would you give someone trying to really provide actionable insights through data science?
Yeah, so I think the biggest piece of advice I would give is that that collaboration component, understanding what the other key partners and stakeholders, understanding their perspective. So for me, I'm in constant communication with HR, business leadership, IT, many other key stakeholders, even if it's not something they're directly involved with. That collaboration component and understanding the viewpoints of the other key stakeholders, for me, is the biggest way to be successful with analytics.
Fantastic. Awesome. Thank you so much to Eric Friedman from Unum for talking to us about leveraging data science for truly actionable insights.
Thank you so much for having me.